Hey guys, can you guess what today's video is about? I'm so excited because today I will read you chapter 10 of the book Rent a Bridesmaid. Yeah, finally, chapter 10. And today is Saturday, in this book, Saturday. And it's Miss Iris May Bloomfield's wedding with Mr. Flower. So what will happen? Did it end up fine or bad? We will find out. Because today is Saturday, Mrs. Iris May Bloomfield's wedding with her fiancé is Mr. Flower. If you had heard from chapter 1 and chapter 10 of the book, you definitely know all the characters in this book. Yeah? Tilly's dad, Mr. Flower, and Mrs. Iris May Bloomfield. They are all such good people, and also Lewis too, right? And today is Saturday, Mrs. Iris May Bloomfield's wedding. It's going to be just fine. And will she cancel the wedding, or what will happen? We will find out. Chapter 10. When I woke up on Saturday morning, I crept into Dad's room. He was fast asleep, curled up in a ball as if he were still a little boy. He kept the bed he used to share with Mom. When we came to the new house, it looked too big for just one person. I climbed in beside him and cuddled up to his back. "It's the wedding day," I whispered. He murmured my name in a pleased sort of way, but he didn't wake up properly. I tried a few wriggles and nudged to see if that would help, but he started gently snoring. I felt too fidgety and nervous and excited to stay cuddled up for long. I eased myself out of bed again and went to put on the emergency heater so that I could have a really big hot bath this morning. I checked on my bridesmaid dress again, as if it might have found off by itself during the night. It was hanging up outside my wardrobe, as fresh and silky and pink as ever. I rubbed the frilly hem against my cheek, loving its feels. I held the dress up against me and practiced walking very slowly and, importantly, around my bedroom, though it was a bit difficult in my flip-flop bedroom slippers. "Will I make a good bridesmaid?" I asked Strippy and Blue Bunny. I made them nod their heads. I tried playing a game with them, but it wouldn't become real. I just made me playing with two cuddly toys like a baby. I got my crayons and my drawing books. I started to draw Strippy and Blue Bunny instead, making them pose for their portraits. They were a bit small on the page, so I drew some other animals around them, monkeys and elephants and tigers, and I drew two girls looking at all the animals. One girl has bright red hair and badge all over her jacket and sparkly trainers. It was definitely Maddie. I drew the other girl in a mad clown outfit with a tiny bowler hat and enormous baggy trousers with braces. I gave her a big round red noses and a silly grin. Then I scribbled all over her. I scribbled all over the pages and tore it out, scrambled it up, and threw it in the waste paper basket. I peeped in Dad's bedroom, but he still wasn't awake. I wandered back into the kitchen and stole a shortbread biscuit. I wasn't really hungry though, and after one bite, just licked the sugar off. And I washed my sticky hands and started another drawing. It was a proper picture this time. I started with St. John's Church. It was difficult remembering exactly what it looked like, but I knew it had a little spider and stained glass windows and a grassy garden with roses. I drew Miss Bloomfield standing beside the rose bed in her pink and white wedding frock. She was hand in hand with Mr. Flower. I tried to remember what the old man looked like in a photograph at Miss Bloomfield's. I drew him wearing his best suit, with a rose in his buttonhole. Then, last of all, I drew me in the raspberry pink bridesmaid dress. I made my hair a bit longer and thicker and blonder and colored my eyes very blue and gave myself cupid lips just to look prettier on the page. This wasn't cheating, it was something called artistic license. Then I had to spend ages coloring in all boring bits, like the sky and the grass. Sometimes I couldn't be bothered to do it neatly, but this time I did my best to make the sky an even blue with little fluffy clouds, and I colored the green grass in little vertical dashes to look like individual blades of grass. Dad came into the kitchen in his pajamas just as I was finishing. "Hello, Tilly. I'm so sorry I slept in, lovey," he said, yawning. Then he saw what I was doing. "My goodness, let's have a look at your picture." "Well, it's a little masterpiece. You must have been up half the night." "It's me at the wedding in my bridesmaid dress," I said. "Well, I can see that," said Dad. "You've done it all so carefully, and I love the way you've drawn Miss Bloomfield. Tell you what, why don't you give that picture to Miss Bloomfield as a little wedding present?" "Yeah, I'm sure she'd think it's very special indeed." "Do you think so?" "I know so. Yeah, I know so." "Now, let's put the immersion on so you can scrub yourself as pink as your ready dress," said Dad. "I've done it. Clever girl." "Then let's have breakfast now. We don't want you spilling your cornflakes all down your dress." Dad made the tea while I set out the cornflake bowls and put 2 slices of bread in the toaster. "We made a good team together, you and me, don't we?" said Dad. "Yes, we do," I said. I gave each other a high five and smiled. We were a team with the most important member missing, but we were still a team. I found out I didn't want to eat much breakfast, even though Dad let me sprinkle my cornflakes with rainbow sugar as a treat. "Eat up, Puppet," he said. "Well, my tummy doesn't feel right," I said, rubbing it. "I expect you're just a bit nervous," said Dad. "I wonder if Miss Bloomfield's feeling a bit nervous too." "I do like her. I wish I had her as a granny," I said wistfully. I didn't have any proper grannies. Dad's mom had died when I was still a baby. Mom's mom lived in Spain somewhere, with her new husband. But she'd never seemed very interested in me. She'd never got on with Mom either. "Maybe Miss Bloomfield wishes she had a little granddaughter just like you," said Dad. "Come on, try a bit of toast and honey if you really can't finish your cornflakes." I did my best and then went to have my bath. I washed my hair too. I wish I could style it properly. I couldn't help remembering the way Mom sometimes played hairdresser with me and gave me elaborate top knots. I brushed my damp hair and fiddled around with it this way and that, but it didn't work. In the end, I just let it hang down to my shoulders and gave my fringe an extra brushing so it wouldn't go all stinky. At last, it was soft and shiny. Then I put on the raspberry pink underwear and the raspberry pink dress and the raspberry pink shoes, all raspberry, and stood back and looked at myself in the mirror. "Do I look okay, Dad?" I asked, running to show him. "Oh, darling, you look as pretty as a picture. You're perfect," he said. "So do you, Dad." "Well, as handsome as a picture," I told him. He was wearing his office suit because he didn't have any other, but he was wearing a new shirt, a pink new shirt, with a navy and pink tie. I didn't want to let the side down. "I'm the father of the bridesmaid after all," said Dad. He looked at his watch. "Well, shall we set off? You can't really do anything wearing that beautiful dress. We don't want you getting it all creased. We're going to be very early, but Miss Bloomfield said she would like a bit of moral support. Pop your jacket on, sweetheart. Dad, it's quite chilly outside, though thank goodness it isn't raining. There's absolutely no way you can wear a denim jacket over a bridesmaid dress. So, you can take it off when you get to the church. No, you can have to look right the moment you step outside the house. Do you think Miss Bloomfield will be wearing her fleece over her bridal outfit? I think not. Well, you're both going to get goose pimples, said Dad, but he didn't argue further. We drove over to her house. Dad had cleaned the car especially last night and fixed some white satin ribbon in a cross over the bonnet like a real wedding car. I was bothered about crushing my silky dress, so I sat very still in the back with the skirt spread all around me, and then I eased myself out of the car. There, you still look pretty as a picture, said Dad. He has his eyes over his eyes, pretend to be dazzled. Being dazzled by my beauty. We walked up the path to Miss Bloomfield's house. We knocked. We knocked again. We knocked at each other. Knock. And we looked at each other. Then there was no answer. We knocked a third time. Perhaps she's a bit deaf, said Dad, but she answered her door almost immediately before I said. I pushed open the stiff letter box. I saw part of the hallway, but it was empty. Miss Bloomfield, I called loudly. Miss Bloomfield, it's me, Tilly, and my dad. There was a muffled sound. I waited a few seconds, and then Miss Bloomfield came towards the door. She was wearing something large and faded blue. It looked like a dressing gown. She opened the door, but only a chick. Hello, Tilly. Hello, Mr. Andrews, she said. Her voice was husky. Oh, Miss Bloomfield, aren't you very well? I asked. That's right, she said. I would invite you in just in case you catch anything. I think I would better go straight back to bed. But you can't. It's your wedding day, I said. I don't think there's going to be a wedding. There's going to be any, said Miss Bloomfield, and a tear tracked down her pale cheek. I'm so sorry. She tried to close the door, but Dad gently held onto it, stopping her. Let us come in and make you a cup of tea, he said softly. You look as if you could do with one. He went inside, holding Miss Bloomfield's arm, helping her along to the kitchen. I followed them, my heart thumping. No wedding? No wedding. So I couldn't show off my raspberry pink bridesmaid dress after all. Then I noticed a slump of Miss Bloomfield's small shoulders, and I felt horribly guilty. It was far, far worse for poor Miss Bloomfield. Dad sat her at her kitchen table. He put the kettle on and found a willow pattern teapot and the matching cups and saucers. He looked at me and made a little waving motion, indicating that I should go over to Miss Bloomfield. I shuffled towards her shyly, not quite knowing what to do. She gave me a little snorty sniff and then murmured an embarrassed apology. My arm went out automatically and patted her, making shoulder. She felt very small and frail underneath the bulky blue quilting. There now, said Dad, pouring boiling water into the teapot. He stirred the tea leaves around. When he poured the tea, it came out a very pale lemon color. Oh dear, I don't think I gave it time to brew. Tilly and I made two with tea bags and mugs at home. It looks very weak. So do I, said Miss Bloomfield. Trying to make a little joke, she fumbled in her dressing gown pocket, and then dabbed her eye with a crumb lace hanky. So the wedding is definitely all off, Dad asked gently. Maybe, no, definitely. I just don't know, said Miss Bloomfield helplessly. Oh, poor Miss Bloomfield. I thought it's going to be all fine, but there's something wrong. Dad looked at his watch. Well, we've got just under an hour for you to think about it, he said. What happened, Miss Bloomfield? I asked, unable to bear not knowing any more. I thought you were so looking forward to marrying Mr. Flower. Well, I was, said Miss Bloomfield, having to dab her eye again. Did you have a terrible argument? I asked. Dad shook his head at me. Tilly, it's none of our business, he said. Miss Bloomfield was nodding. Just last night. I can't believe it. We've never had a cross word before. We've been such good friends, Albert and me, always getting on fine and dandy. And we were getting on so well last night, too. We had an early supper at his house, so I could then help him pack for our honeymoon. It was fish and chips from the shop up the way. We didn't really have that when we eat at Albert's, though it was always a little greasy and tends to give me indigestion. So I said that I would cook him a nice piece of steamed plaice with new potatoes in the future, and I would make sure he had good home cooking. He got a bit shirty and said he would always thought of steamed fish as invalid food, and there was nothing wrong with bought chips and fish. It was his favorite meal. Oh, that's exactly the sort of arguments Maddie and I have. She's my best friend, I said, but we always made afterwards. But this was just the start, you see. He said my cooking was all very well, very prettily done, but he actually preferred takeaways, especially Indian meals. Well, I took umbrage at that, because I can't bear curries, then play havoc with my tummy, and make the house reek for days. And I said as much then. I had a bit of sulk myself because I pride myself on my cooking, but I tried to stay pleasant. I said I would go into his bedroom to start on his packing, and he said he would do it himself. So we had the silliest argument about that. Jup, just like Maddie and me, I said. It was a bit of shocks when I saw the state of his bedroom, so untidy, newspaper and old socks and dirty coffee mugs every which way, and the bed not even made properly, and his so-called packing. He just flung his shirt in the bottom of his case when they would get all creased and shove his shoes on top. And also he would get a shovel in too. Would you believe? So I tipped in all out and started folding the shirts properly, and he came in, and instead of being grateful, he said I was being childish. So I got a bit whoppish then, and said he very unpleasantly that he was being henpecked before he was even married. Oh dear, said Dad. I was so upset I blurted out that maybe we should call the whole wedding off in that case, and I stormed out of the door. I thought he would run after me, or at least call round my house 10 minutes later, but he didn't, and I certainly wasn't going to go groveling to him. I hardly slept at night, worrying, and then this morning I tried phoning him, but he didn't reply, so he obviously didn't want to make up. I felt sad. He doesn't want to make up. Miss Bloomfield burst into fresh tears, and now it seems so silly. I don't know how I could have spoiled all my chances over a plate of fish and chips. I would eat nothing else for the rest of my days if only I could share my life with Albert. I'm sure he's feeling just as rich as you, Bloomfield, said Dad. Why don't you give him another ring, or even get dressed and pop around? I'm not going to running after him, said Miss Bloomfield insisted, shaking her head. So that her curls popped out. If he really wanted to marry me, he would be running here knocking at my door, wouldn't he? And at that very moment, there were 3 loud knocks on the door. 3 loud knocks. Aha, said Dad, right on cue. It won't be him. I'm sure it won't be him. It'll probably be the postman, or one of our neighbors, or Miss Bloomfield gabbled. There were 3 more loud knocks. "Why don't you go and see?" said Dad, "or he might give up and go away." Miss Bloomfield literally jumped up. For all she was an old lady, she ran into the hall, her old slipper falling off the process. Her old slipper. We followed her, and Dad grabbed my hand as she opened the door. I clutched him back. "Oh, please let it be Mr. Flower," I wished as hard as I could. So do you think it could be Mr. Flower? Well, we will find out in the next chapter. It's so exciting, isn't it? And if it is Mr. Flower, it will be a happy ending. But if it isn't, then a sad story, isn't it? So I hope it is Mr. Flower, just like Tilly. Bye, guys. Thank you for watching.